Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Earthlings. Welcome to the planet. Today, yes, I'm going to talk about Meghan and her fans continually complaining. Before I get into that, the video last night that was cut short, it's not YouTube, okay? We've had a lot of weirdness, but it's nothing to do with YouTube. I did the video last night, it was about 6 or 7 minutes long, and my actual phone cut it short. So I don't want anyone thinking that YouTube chopped me. I know it did look like that, but I thought, well, I'll put that straight in the morning. But yeah, I understand why people get suspicious because YouTube, they are messing with us in the background as well. Both me and Graham, our channels are being messed with. And we expect no less actually now. Our trust, our faith in YouTube is evaporated. It's just evaporated, which is why I've been busily trying to set up X. Graham has a Rumble account. I know it's a big ask for people to move from YouTube to other platforms. I realise that. I've found it in the past a big ask myself. But I really feel that it's time YouTube need a smack on the arse. And I hope a lot of other creators out there who perhaps weren't aware that YouTube can just snip them without trial, rhyme, reason, judge or jury. They can just, Neil Mohan and his mates can just make a decision like they did with Wally, and then refuse to talk to people, and now apparently we have legislation which emboldens and reinforces that. I hope everybody, creators who didn't know that, are going to have backup plans, because I just don't see the future being YouTube anymore. Interestingly enough, their revenue returns for the first time were down as of December 2022. I wonder why. Could it have been threatening creators, silencing people who participate on the platform from making comments, demonetising creators? Could it be something like that? I don't know. Maybe go woke, go broke. And that's very much going to be the essence of this video. And Meghan and her perpetual whining. And her fans. Now, anyone who follows this channel for quite a while will know, most of the time I talk about Meghan. But then when the thing kicked off with Russell Brand, that's my thing. My thing is PR. My thing is, you know, what the direction society's going in. And a lot of the reason is because of the creation of artificial personalities on social media. And Meghan being one of those people who seemingly seems to think that's a good thing to do. You know, just if you haven't got any fans, buy some. That's what I've noticed following her. So I've deliberately not talked about her. But the sugars come on my Russell Brand videos, and they want to twist the subject around that Meghan is somehow the victim in this. Right, so let's go there. Let's talk about Meghan and how hard she's had it in life. A daddy who bought her everything, who, by the way, she's now shit on right royally in front of the entire world by not having him at the wedding, by sending him a poison pen letter, which he cried over, put in a drawer and thought, I won't think about it. That wasn't good enough. She had to get 5 friends to go to People magazine and tell the world about the poison pen letter. So poor Thomas tries to defend himself. That's not good enough. I'm going to sue the Daily Mail. Of which I was actually proud of the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail do occasionally do things that I am extremely proud of them for taking a stand. Unfortunately, sometimes they get it wrong, and I think they've got it very, very wrong over the way they have approached the whole Russell Brand thing, culminating in that blatant lie last night in their article where they clearly said you cannot watch videos on Rumble unless you pay a minimum of $60. Now, someone pointed out that Rumble has some system like Locals, or they've merged with Locals, where you can join a membership thing and you can pay $60 to watch extra content. But that's not what they said in the article. They said you have to pay $60 minimum to watch any video on Rumble. And that is a lie. This PR and the point that Russell makes in his video about there being a big conspiracy. Okay, I love Russell Brand. I'm not sure I go along with the theory that there is a big organised conspiracy. I'm of the school of thought, actually, that it's very disorganised and disjointed. However, it is affecting us and our free speech. It is a fact that this online safety bill or whatever it is that Caroline Dinenage, who in my opinion should be fired immediately, or if the woman had an ounce shred of decency, she would resign immediately. I'm aware of the dangers of that. I watched Katie Hopkins' video. She did a very good one, just sort of skimming on the surface. Not normally a Katie Hopkins fan either. I'm finding I'm listening to people that I traditionally would never have listened to before. It's like a collision of planets. I'm seeing people in the same camp that have been arch enemies for years. It's almost as if we've been divided and ruled for many years. That's one of the reasons I'm so into PR. Oh, so getting back to Meghan. Poor little Meghan, who had the $44 million wedding and the whole nation at her feet and all the taxpayers paying for that and getting titles and palaces and castles. Oh, sorry, they weren't big enough or good enough, were they? It was just a little cottage in Kensington grounds, probably worth about 40 million. Oh, it's not good enough. It's not as big as William and Catherine's. Yeah, really? The Sugars are trying to compare that to the allegations against Russell Brand. Now, let's just say Russell's guilty. They are comparing victims of sexual assault and rape and their plight to what Meghan had to go through. Let's say Russell is innocent. That's a man who's having his entire life destroyed, and these are serious criminal allegations which could end up him being in prison and losing his liberty. Let's compare that to Meghan and her plight. She only had a little cottage in Kensington Palace. I'm sorry, that's why she's not liked. As far as I'm concerned, that's why I think she's a whiner, a complainer. Sugars, stay off this subject. Why don't you start comparing her to little orphans in war-torn zones? If I were to do videos about that, that's nothing compared to what Meghan had to go through. Meghan, Meghan, Meghan. And another reason I haven't done videos about her is because I have genuine second-hand shame over the way she's behaved at the Costner thing, grabbing the microphone. Oh, give me the microphone, I'm gonna talk! The expression on Costner's face, the expression on all the A-listers' faces, the expression on Harry's face, like a little boy ashamed and being pushed around the stage. And I got on something that, because there's this viral video of Meghan going, go, 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 talk to Kevin. There's that. But when Harry comes back, you look at the very last second of that video and her face, she looks at Costner. I'm going to get you, bastard. Get on that one. You other YouTubers, Royal Grift, slow that one right down, because I just don't have the time or the patience to get the videos and give that woman that attention. I just don't. Why can't her and Harry just shut up and go away? The Russell Brand story has been all over the world. It's a big thing. There are people out there, a lot of people who believe in innocent until proven guilty, who are challenging those that believe in witch hunts. This is an important conversation. It's nothing to do with Meghan, the empty vessel, and yet there are her fans pushing her into the middle of a conversation like that again. Just go away. Just go away. Go and can't she start the TIG again or something, or open her Instagram? Give these people a place to go. They clearly want to go and look at her horse blanket coat, or I still think it was the family rug. I mean, that's just lunacy and rudeness. You turn up at a party dressed like... I don't even want to talk about her. I really don't. I have watched a heartbreaking film this morning that someone put on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description. It actually made me cry. I was in floods of tears. It's a documentary that Russell Brand made years ago. I think it's like 2001 or something like that, where he kind of confronts his dad in the nicest possible way about the fact his dad was absent during his childhood. And I think I suddenly realised why I gravitate towards people like Russell Brand. We're from a different generation. his dad comes across as lovely, his mum comes across as lovely, but that's the way life was a lot then. It was a little bit more messed up. I don't know if it's less messed up now. My parents didn't get divorced. There was never a hint of it. My parents adored each other. They were in love with each other, actually, to the extent that me and my sisters were kind of like secondary. My mum and dad were in a whirlwind all of their own. And they were lovely people, and they did a great job of being a mum and a dad, but they were a little messed up in their own ways as well. I mean, my birthdays and Christmas, when I was really little, I'd get up and say, "Oh, Daddy, Daddy, Happy Christmas," and he'd put his hand up and shake my hand and go, "Oh yeah, jolly good, well done, Merry Christmas, Fiona." You know, that's a little messed up, isn't it? But that was my dad, and that was his charm, and I loved that. I loved that about him. And my mother could ignore any crisis. Just it didn't happen. Someone could run into the room saying the whole building's on fire. My mother would produce a tray of hors d'oeuvres and say, "Oh, Betty for anybody?" You know, that they were from a different era. They grew up in the war. My dad was evacuated. My mum and my gran made the decision, if we're going to go as a group. We stay in Brighton. Brighton had the shit bombed out of it. And my mum went to school, came home dinner time, and her house was gone. Bomb had hit it, killed her granny. Never mind, pick yourself up, get on with it. And then I had these little sugars whining about Meghan and Harry. Oh. I'm not one of these creators who wants them to carry on and on and on so that I have something to talk about. I'm sure we can all find something else to talk about long after they've gone to irrelevancy. The sooner the better, in my opinion, for everybody's mental health, because they really are the pin-up poster boy and poster girl of whinging whiners, aren't they? My mum and dad's parents, before them, they had the First World War and the Depression. And the Second World War, and you know, people didn't have toilets indoors for a long time. That kind of came along in the 70s when I was a kid. I mean, we had a toilet indoor, thank God, because we had 39 steps literally down to the garden, and there was a little shed which would have been the loo. Oh grief, that would have been a nightmare. Thank God we did have a toilet. We didn't have wall-to-wall fitted carpets. Then we never had a washing machine. We moved out in 1990. Never had a washing machine. My mother went to the laundrette. I mean, it's not a big thing, is it? But it's an irritation in life. Whereas these days, society today, most people have a washing machine. Look, hell, a lot of people have a dishwasher. I refuse to have one of them. The bending down and filling it and bending down and emptying it I find much more difficult than quickly doing the washing up and drying it up, putting it back on the shelf. So things have changed. And now it feels like everybody complains perpetually about everything, when there's literally fuck all, pardon my French, there is fuck all to complain about when you live in a country that's not in a war zone. Right now, there are people in war zones, men, women and children, who are having a shitty time. And all I'm hearing about in the West and where we are is, "Oh, I think my rights were infringed, I'm going to complain." And it really gets up people's noses. Well, I can't speak for anyone else. It gets up my nose, gets under my skin. And I think, you know, there's plenty to complain about. In fact, my gran used to say, if you don't stop whinging, you're going to end up with something really worth crying about if you're not careful. Death. Oh my God. I mean, what has happened to society? And is Russell right? Is there some big conspiratorial thing? Well, I agree. There are things like the Aspen Institute. There are billionaires and millionaires out there with more money than sense. Who, yes, I do. I think that to a certain extent they're trying to warp and twist and create legislation. But I don't believe that they are organised. I don't think they're organised. And I'll tell you where I think this has come from. They're in it for the clicks. I could see when I watched GB News, and was it Beverly? Sorry, I can't remember her surname. Beverly having a row with Andrew Pierce. I could see that Andrew Pierce was saying what he thought the viewer wanted to hear. I didn't see conviction in what he was saying. He was playing up for clicks. That was my interpretation of it. And boy, that blew up in his face. He ended up having to do a video on the Daily Mail the next day, doubling down. And I think that's the problem, that for too long, I mean, well over 10 years now, politicians and celebrities have been able to buy robots, and us peasants on the ground, because I mean, I only found out about this around about 2018 for certain, that this was going on, and it was definitely going on before that, years before that. I thought when I went on Facebook, because I used to use Facebook primarily, and I'd post a comment, something like, I don't know, it's just something banal, like, I like Jaguar cars. I'd be pounced on, like hundreds of comments. Oh, how dare you support Jaguar, blah, 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 blah. And I'd think, what the hell, where the hell did that come from? And at the time, I thought they were genuine human beings. On reflection, looking back now, I can see that those were robots or troll farms who had an agenda to push me in a certain direction. I was seeing things on Facebook where people I'd known for over 40 years were going along with and agreeing to some of the most ludicrous suggestions and ideologies I'd ever heard of in my life. And I remember saying to Graham, round about 2016, 2017, did something get in the water, or did everybody take a stupid pill? Why has everybody taken leave of their senses on Facebook? It was one of the many reasons that I dumped Facebook in 2018. I just thought, I can't bear to see people try to persuade me that the sky is purple and the grass is blue and the sea is green. I just can't bear to be a part of this anymore. Apart from that, we had a couple of stalkers who were using Facebook to track our movements and stuff, and our kids, so we all just dumped Facebook. Then I go on Twitter years ago, and it was even worse. And it sort of pricked my interest. And then along came Markle. And even when she was doing bitchy things like writing poison pen letters to her dad and her 5 friends, telling People magazine all about the poison pen letter, poor Meghan wrote the letter. Never mind the recipient of it. And loads of people supporting her and sympathising with her. And I thought, this is insanity. That's how I ended up watching Taz, Murky and Wally in the first place, because I thought they seemed to be the only people who were talking sense. And we were a very small group at first, do you remember? And it felt like we were the only people in the world going, the Emperor is naked, he is not wearing any clothes. So I believe that these decades of these bots and the manipulation on social media into twisting people into thinking certain things are popular, that has fooled a lot of politicians and celebrities into believing this bullshit. And so they say and do these things. They jump on these bandwagons. They, fly the Ukraine flag, even though they haven't got a bloody clue where Ukraine is, let alone the history of the war or what the hell's actually going on down there. One of the articles I saw, I can't remember which newspaper, when it first kicked off in Ukraine. Right, it's a thing called Chernobyl, nuclear power station, blew up in the 1980s and it was closed ever since. But it was somewhere, it might have been on social media. Some idiot who had no idea where Ukraine was suddenly said, oh, there's a nuclear power plant in Ukraine called Chernobyl, which is fully functional. And it's going to blow up in a minute. And I thought, I don't think these people know where Ukraine is. I don't think they know what Chernobyl is. I don't think they understand. I think they're talking shit. And the problem is, see, politicians traditionally have relied on pollsters and the polls, but they take time. Even a quick poll, and it depends on the methodology, and they take a small sample of the population, they ask them a few questions, and then they form their conclusion. And you can really manipulate a poll into saying anything you want, but politicians they're always on at the polls, and I think at some point along the line politicians decided we don't need pollsters anymore, we've got social media. Let's just say some shit on social media, and if we get more ticks and clicks and thumbs up, that's what the people want. That's where I think this has come from. And I don't think that their overlords above, and I mean rich people, famous celebrities, PR companies, I don't think that they've cottoned on to the fact that us plebs on the ground Well, again, I can't speak for everybody, but me personally, I'm sick to the back teeth of all this shit, this PR shit that they throw in our face all the time. I'm sick of seeing copy, cut and paste headlines. Exactly what Brand was saying. It comes across as if someone's paying for it, but people are paying for it. The more money, the more you get the headlines, the more you control what is said. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a big conspiratorial government out there, but it is certainly going to contribute towards the end of civilization if someone doesn't nip it in the bud. If we don't get some politicians out there who are willing to say what they really think is good for the people, if we can get rid of these weathercock Facebook-like clicking politicians and get them to understand you need to start talking to real people and finding out what real people think, because otherwise it's going to get out of hand. You know, it's what I've always called the Marie Antoinette moment. Be careful, rich people. Be careful, the powers that be, forcing ideology down our throats when you are not elected. Just using your money to buy clicks, to pay for PR in newspapers, you're not fooling anybody. And I think the moment that really woke a lot of people up that would have traditionally fallen for this was the lockdown. And I think what happened was basically during the lockdown, people had a little bit of breathing space. They weren't going to go into work. They're sitting at home. Their time finally to get out of the hamster wheel where they're busily earning tax. Oh, I've got to pay a bill. I need to pay the tax. I've got to get the kids to school on time. They had that breathing space to sit back and say, what the fuck is really going on? And it seems to me that a lot of people that probably wouldn't have noticed all of this would have continued. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot with the lockdown and the whole COVID thing, didn't they? And people started looking at lots of things and thinking, well, do I need to do that anymore? Do I need to do that? Are they actually telling me the truth? Because I'm seeing different things. It's all very contradictory. It begins to feel fake and PR, almost as if someone's paying for it or organising it. I don't think it's going to end well unless the politicians start to buck up. Now, Margaret Thatcher was a character. When I was a kid, I was quite scared of her. And it appeared to me she was deeply unpopular. Although she must have been very popular because she was voted in. I think she won 4 general elections. But looking back on it, Lady Thatcher didn't care about being popular. She said and did what was needed to be said and did. And I remember my mum saying to me, you won't appreciate her until you're middle-aged, Fiona, and you look back in history. And my mum was so right. She had bigger balls. They didn't call her the Iron Lady for nothing. She made decisions. She must have thought to herself, people are going to hate me for doing this, but it's got to be done. And she'd do it. And I don't hear people complaining about the decisions that she made, that people were allowed to buy their own council houses. There are housing shortages. There always were going to be. There will be new solutions. Elon Musk's flat pack houses. That's the future. Society, life will find a way, but what you can't have are leaders who are just so lily-livered. That's why a lot of people have jumped on the Russell bandwagon. Burger King, the quivering cowards. Oh, we're so scared. Well, that's blown up in their face. I looked at their Twitter feed. They've got like 500,000 comments going there. Never buying a burger off you again. You don't believe in innocent until proven guilty. Which brings me to another point. I've had people on here calling me a rape apologist. Get bent. What the hell are you talking about? You know, Virginia Giuffre did no favours for genuine victims of sexual assault and rape. There are lots of other women who do no favours. Blame them. Blame their lying asses. Don't come on my channel or anybody else's accusing anybody of being rape apologists. What we are saying is that everybody is entitled to a fair hearing, a fair trial. We do not burn witches anymore. And if you really believe in that, you need to go away, look in the mirror and take a good bloody hard long look at yourself and your values. Think, what if it was my dad? What if it was my brother? Think that to yourself. There's a reason that we have civilised trials, or we're supposed to, and police and stuff like that. Anyway, I can just imagine the comments on this one. And I look forward to reading every single one of them. Thank you very much for indulging me and listening to my thoughts, opinions and rants, and let's see where this is all headed. But one thing I do know is Markle has no influence whatsoever over any. No one's interested in what she has to say. No one wants to give her an acting part, as far as I can see, unless they got the kiss of death for their studio. And then presumably face a load of, they were racist allegations after they give her a big chance. Oh well, as always, thank you very much for listening.